Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Mary Mancini, and this is Nashville. Today, we're diving into the impact of the diverse array of Hispanic and Latino country artists making music here and around the world. And while many of these artists have found extraordinary popularity in other countries, the industry here has been slow to embrace them. That is changing. Recently, senior music writer Julie Hight sat down with Louie the Singer, a Mexican-American country music artist who signed with UMG Nashville in 2023. Louie fought any resistance he found in the country music industry by leaning into his cultural heritage, his authenticity, and his musical roots.
It's practically tradition in country music to hear artists sing country songs about how country they are, about their countryness. But so many of the examples that I have heard in the past from white artists in Nashville, there's not necessarily high stakes to, there's no one is telling them that they are not country, but you have a song in that tradition that really grabbed me when I listened to it and watched the video, Come and Take It. And in one of the pivotal lines you sing, they say I ain't country, but my people started this thing they call country.
When the country music comes with strings outside of fiddles and guitars, can you tell me? Cause whoever's pulling strings is pulling hard and trying to tell us who we are. But they can't tell me. I was listening as a youngin' when the thunder rolled, while mama made a poppers with some size on the stove. Country was about making sure your neighbor was good. It ain't about color, man, it never was. They say I ain't country, but my people started this thing they call country. Back when a man had to cry with his hands working land before money. I shouldn't have to fight for what's mine, but I'm taking it back, take it from me. Come and take it from me.
And I wondered if you could place in perspective the resistance that you encountered that inspired you to write that song and what felt right to you about writing it the way that you did, pointing to history.
It's funny because it was actually a major, pivotal moment. There was so many leading up to it, but there was a radio station in my hometown in Fort Worth. And we had reached out, just to be honest, straight reach out, hey man, what do I got to do to be a part of this, be a part of that, or whatever. And I told the people to tag the radio station. The radio station ends up posting, we don't play country rap. We don't play the hip hop stuff. Pretty much just dogging me out, saying that we're never going to play that. And I think what it really is it goes back to the traditional, what something looks like, which is so crazy because we're talking about music, me and you can both listen to music with our eyes closed. And again, not talking about what something looks like. But I took so much backlash, I guess, because I didn't grow up necessarily on a saddle. I didn't grow up necessarily on a ranch, around it, of course. Yeah, I'm from Texas. I didn't have a choice. And I'm a Mexican-American. So on my mom's side, I grew up going to colladas. We threw them. My grandma was the one that collected the money at the gate. And so it's I never really thought backlash would be a thing until I started doing the music. And then I'm talking about death threats. I had people telling me that they were going to skin my children because I was polluting it with, whatever. They would, they call me racial slurs, but rather than run from it, I would post that and, because my thing was more and not in a bad way, I think the truth, honest truth, and I'm going to say it like this. They've always let us in, but they changed it. This time we had to kick the door down and say, nah. You're not going to close that door on me and then make me dress different. I don't move like that. Not this one. You can't put strings on me. They already put me in a cage once, made it out of there. Here I am. You can't tell me what rock bottom is. I already know it. But you're also not going to tell me where I'm going from there. That's God's position. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just run with this. If it bothers y'all so much that I'm not country, then let's run with that. Man, you think that's hard? I don't even speak fluent Spanish. I'm not Mexican enough for the Mexicans. For real. And then for the Texas people, just like Selena's dad said, I'm too Texan. I'm too Mexican for the Texans. I'm too Texan for the Mexicans. So at this point, it's like, man, I just want to be me. And I
Yeah.
think that so many people relate.
Yeah. And I mean, from what I've read, growing up in Fort Worth, immersed in a country environment, like your musical world always included country, but also Tejano and pop and hip hop and R&B. From the beginning, that was the music that you were around, that you were embracing, that made sense to you, that you were into. And then you've had different eras as a performer where you were leaning into different facets of that a little more. Your B-boy era, your R&B lover man era, and then coming to really be heard as a country artist. I love hearing the way that you talk about these things. It's not for you making some kind of deliberate crossover move or genre switch, but just showing who you are and in its multiple facets.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. In the '90s, that's my favorite era of country, right? A lot of those artists got backlash from the guys that were from the '60s and '70s. That's not country. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's whatever, right? So it's not that it's a new thing. I mean, everybody gets backlash for doing something different. You know what I'm saying? Like even little things. They told Elvis not to move his legs. They told Elvis, don't move your legs. You can't do that when you perform. You know, that's for the colored men, which is crazy to me. And, but yeah, I look at it like, man, the one thing I'll say is as an artist, you have to know who you are as a person, because your art is a projection of exactly who you are as a person, right? You don't know who you are, then what are you projecting? Because my stuff sounds a lot like country R&B, country, hip hop and stuff, because that's what I grew up doing, but I also grew up doing country. And unfortunately, as I got older, my twang didn't get any fixed more than, and then so it's like the first ever song that I did that came out country wasn't intended to be. It was about my father when he passed away in 2018. And I'm leaving with this, and the friend I'm with is this. It's just, this sounds so country. I'm like, I know. It's just been there the whole time. And I think, honestly, it's cool because I am alone in the room sometimes as a Mexican American, and me and my guys walk in, we get the biggest stares. But I have to remember that I also have to hold myself a certain way because they're ready for me to act how they think I'm going to act or react, and it is hard, because the vaquero, man, like if y'all want to talk about culture and everything, like they were the first ones. I'm not here to say we're taking it back. I'm just here to say, hey, I'm just here to remind y'all it was meant for everybody. It was meant for the people,
It kind of seems like that if anyone says that you made some big strategic crossover move or had some kind of, agenda, if they question you in that way about being here in the country world, maybe that says more about the way that the industry system is constructed and what is baked into genre categories than it says about who you are as an artist and the journey that you've been on that has brought you, that's been an unbroken journey that has brought you here.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that the more they tell me no, the more I'm gonna yell out yes, because I see these youngsters in Nashville. I'm not from here. I'll be at places on Music Row, and I've had young men walk up to me. I'm not old by no means, but I got them by 10, 12 years, and they're like, "You're Louis," and I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "We're Mexican country singers from Memphis, from Knoxville, and we live in Nashville now, pursuing music, bro. We follow you, man." I'm sitting there like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, you're opening it for us, bro." And now it's not even just you, Lou. Man, like, what did you start?
Yeah. And you have built such a robust following and audience. I mean, in Texas and beyond Texas. And I wonder what you feel like got the attention of all of these Nashville-based labels, because I know you talked with multiple labels, So what was it about what you were doing that was completely outside of their system that got their attention? And then I'm also wondering, on the other side of that equation, because you had done so much on your own, what was it that made you think it was worth signing?
For one, Cindy, Mabe made everything feel so comfortable. Chelsea, which sadly neither one of them were at the label anymore.
Right.
They have put me in such great hands. Cindy made me feel comfortable. I've been doing music for almost, at the time been doing music about 16 years, so the labels are scary. It's like, they're just here to screw us over.
Well, and it wasn't your first rodeo.
Not at all. So you got to remember too, man, like it's a longer conversation, but on a business level, you've got to never show your chips, show your cards. You let them guess, because when they guess, they talk. And the more they talk, the more they tell who they are. And Cindy was just open. She was a fan of music. She was I stopped the fight, at my show in Dallas, sold out show, right? And they're throwing gang signs and stuff. She told me, I've never seen that. And I said, yeah, well, that's what I thought. She goes, but they listen to you. I said, yeah, well, I told them to stop and dap each other up, black Mexican guy, Then she goes, Louis, they're listening.
Yeah.
She was like, you're the voice for those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's what it was. But I try to tell people all the time, I think my real thing is, I'm not a voice, nor do I try to be. I'm just one of the people.
I've heard you say that a lot. Like, you just speak about being a man of the people, or being
telling me I'm the voice of the people. I'm like, no, that's God. I am just one of the people. I just happen to be louder than that guy next to me, I'm just saying what he wants to say. But like I said, this time it wasn't meant to be, hey, Mexicans are here. It's, we're here. I'm not changing nothing this time.
I mean, there's nothing more country than saying, I'm just real. I'm down to earth. I am who I am, and I'm not trying to elevate myself, in station and importance or image above all the people that are listening to my music and coming to see me play.
Yeah, and I guess that's what makes it all beautiful. Again, full circle. Like I say, it's cool to be around fans. Like, I love to be around the people. Like, I swear to you, I could talk to people and I feel like, man, do I not know this lady? And they're like, we're in Washington. I'm pretty sure she was so nice. It's near my tia or something. It's so, I don't know. I think, and then also I want other artists to see that and feel that, because a lot of guys I looked up to growing up, it was one of those situations, never meet your heroes, but I've also met guys that are great, like Frankie J, Baby Bash, Chris Perez, that I grew up listening to. And these guys are so welcoming, and Michael Salgado. And I want to be more like Post Malone, those guys. I want to be like Jelly. I want people to see that and say, you know what, I could do it too. Because the more you are over these people, it's like, for one, nobody wants to be around that. I don't. Two, man, that little kid that probably could have changed the whole world off one song, he never wrote it because you were just an a-hole to him. And that kid went home and was like, I'm going to play video games, But instead, he's like, man, I want to be that. I want to be that guy. Just wrote the song that changed the world 20 years later. And it started with man, you got it. That's it. It's all it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
I'm curious because, you've gotten to kind of make the rounds in the industry it was 2 years ago that you signed your label deal in Nashville. So what have you seen? What has changed in the last couple of years? Has anything changed?
Oh, definitely. A lot's changed, management changes. And it's like, I've noticed that because I come from the hip hop R&B world.
Yeah.
Right? It's nothing like that. It's so welcoming. Like Jackson Nance, I don't know if you know who Jackson Nance is, super talented songwriter. It's like, like Jackson's introduced me to so many people, and nobody, there's no, egos. Like, hey, what's up? I just did such and such a project. You know who I am? Okay, no, I did this too. It's none of that. It's like, cool, what do you do, man? And you'll be sitting there talking to this guy in flip-flops, and he just wrote Morgan Wallen's last 4 singles. And he's just like, cool, let's get together. Sure. And what? Make music? Yes. I love it. Nashville's become a second home. Even like the older generation of music cats that have accepted me. I've gotten to work with Ronnie Bowman, Terry McBride from McBride and the Ride, Marvel Green. Like these cats, they just show love. It's weird. There's no like, so we got to write a country song from the little hood kid from Fort Worth. All right. It's just straight up like, what up, Louis? Well, where are you from, brother? But when you know and you're being real and y'all speak the same things, well, what kind of horses? Man, check them out. Quarter horses. That's Buddy right there. Man, that's a nice one. What you put? And it's a conversation. And now you realize, like, man, this guy, he might be tatted up and a little darker and a little shorter than me, but he's just like me. And it makes for great songs and great people. And, I was a very bitter and inside person in my 20s, and like everything I went through, my dad was kidnapped in high school. We saw a lot growing up. I was always on some like, get away from me stuff, It wasn't until I realized like, man, it starts here, right? Right? Have you ever seen somebody stop a light and go like this? Come on, hey. That's happened to me before. And I've drove up to the next light and gone, it's going to be a good day.
You mean like it was somebody let you merge?
Anything. Just like, hey, let me get that door for, hey, man, how you doing, man? Like your boots, man. Thanks, man. That's when it hit me like, man, I want to be more of that. That's what Nashville is to me.
I'm glad that people are just recognizing that you are coming here operating on your own terms and not coming here to let somebody else tell you who you should be.
Right.
And you were talking about feeling the responsibility of inspiring and empowering those that are coming up behind you. Are there any that you have already kind of seen and are rooting for
Yeah.
that we should be watching for?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even want to say under me or like that or that are coming up, but I would say, I mean, Sammy Yadiaga is another very talented Latin country artist.
Yeah.
He's Cuban-American, but he's from Miami.
Right.
Frank Ray is a super talented Mexican-American ex-law enforcement from New Mexico. I mean, but that shows you, I mean, you're talking about ex-felon, you know, it just shows we got a wide range of fools, you know, but the youngsters, man, we got Tomas Cristian, right? Thomas Christian from West Texas. We got Tones Country, Sean Mecca, who is super dope. Who else is out there? There's just all kinds of Chris Detroit, the homie that I used to do music with daily, you know. But they're out there, man. They're talented. There's a lot of people that are coming up, and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
Mariah's another one that was just put onto my radar. Angie K. I could go on forever. You know how it is.
That was Nashville Public Radio's senior music writer Julie Hight and Louis the singer. When we come back, Jackie Marushka from Marushka Media joins us to discuss how she and others are helping a new generation of Latino country artists navigate the country music industry. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from Nobody Trashes Tennessee, the state of Tennessee's official litter prevention campaign, managed by TDOT. Details on how to be part of the solution to end littering at NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at MusicCityPrep.org.
I'm Mary Mancini, and this is Nashville. Today, we're taking a look at the Hispanic and Latino country artists making music here and around the world. To help this new generation navigate Music City, USA, other artists and country music industry veterans are building their own networks and creating their own opportunities to perform and record. Joining us is Jacqueline Marushka, owner of Marushka Media and the founder of the Hispanic Entertainment Alliance, an organization dedicated to creating connections, sharing ideas, and amplifying the voices of Hispanic and Latino American creatives. Welcome to
Mary.
This is Nashville.
I hopped right in there, didn't I?
Yeah.
Thank you for so much for having me, and thank you for so much for covering this topic.
Oh, absolutely. So glad you're here. So you have decades of experience in and around the music industry here in Nashville. You're the owner of the boutique PR firm Marushka Media and the founder of the Hispanic Entertainment Alliance, which we're going to hear about a little bit later. You're working really hard to show that Latino artists belong in Nashville, in country music. Really. Why do you and others have to work so hard?
I think it comes down to commerce. So if we took a look at every people group and looked at education and socioeconomics, I think that's where a lot of our division lies. So when you look at business and you have to break down how radio works and what sells and what are people buying on tour, the way a record label may break things down is, okay, this guy's getting a lot of spins. Spins equals people showing up for tour dates. That equals merch sales. That equals music sales. And they used to do these things called focus groups back in the day. Now they just look at streams and downloads, social media numbers to check the interaction of an artist and the fan base, what's moving the needle. And they can break these down per zip code, per big region, per country. And for so long, this is terrible. For so long, what I've experienced, all of what I'm about to say is just my experience. I see, all right, this wheel is greased. Let's just push another artist through that pipeline. And that leaves very little room to take a chance. So you did have Freddy Fender, Linda Ronstadt as she came through with her Mexican Roots album. And then you have Johnny Rodriguez. A lot of those artists came from the Hispanic or Latino culture, but were molded into country sounding artists. So it didn't really reflect their culture. Now and I think what's beautiful about social media and the ability to be able to consume on your phone, your mobile, your tablet, your laptop, artists have a direct connection to the fan base. And if they're out on the road and they're constantly working their socials, what we're seeing is a lot of these Hispanic artists, these Latino artists, really building their fan bases and bringing them with them. And it's constant growth. It's a lot of work, but you won't find another people group that'll hustle more.
Has it been also difficult in any way for the industry to see, the country music industry specifically, to see Latino musicians as country musicians?
I think there has always been a process, and the music industry knew what sold. And when you can count on something, you just keep doing that thing. So there is less room to take a chance, less room to take a risk.
Because so it's not even about the music.
I don't think so, because I think if someone takes off like your Johnny Rodriguez's, like your Freddy Fenders, like your Linda Ronstadts, they prove that they're sustainable. And you had an artist named Emilio, that you had Selena. And I think as we've gone along, people have maybe a vision of country as what it's supposed to be. And I always start out when I give a presentation to people in the music industry, when I'll host a showcase that'll feature 3 or 4 Latin country artists. And I'll say, I'm going to teach you guys a word. Repeat after me, vaquero. And they'll all say vaquero. And I'll say, does anybody know what that means? That means cowboy. Vaqueros, they influenced everything from Ralph Lauren's polo designs to Yellowstone. They were the original cowboys. I think historically we've forgotten that. And what I've had to do is lovingly invite you into it. It's not your fault you don't know. So I've been really thankful to have had doors open to me so that I don't just want to open a door. I want to open it and hold it open so that the people running the establishments now, the decision makers now, they know the history and they're open to signing. And if they don't care about the culture of it all, let me show you the numbers. Let me show you what tickets are selling in Mexico. Let me to show you what tickets are being sold in all of these places. And it always surprises me that people will see an artist like Karin Leon come to Nashville and sell out the Bridgestone Arena. And people in the city are looking around going, who is this guy? So it's about us as people being responsible to know what's going on around us. But for people like myself who are representing the culture, to invite everyone else in. Yeah. And I'm lucky because I've made so many friends here in town and have been really blessed to have doors opened for me. Jed Hilly with the Americana Music Association, Mia Jones over at the Country Music Association, Courtney Toney over at the Academy of Country Music. They've all opened their doors and said, we want to know more. So we set up showcases. We do luncheons where we bring the Country Music Association and the Tennessee Latin American Chamber of Commerce together. Why? Because we need to learn about each other. The more we learn about each other, I think the more we learn to respect each other and appreciate each other and do business well. That's kind of part of it also, is if I bring you an artist, are they going to make you money or is it just checking a box for you? Well, no, we want to do good business with you.
And let's talk about that journey a little bit, with your journey specifically with the Tennessee Latin American Chamber of Commerce, because that's what kicked off this passion, this advocacy work that you're doing to bring Latino artists country artists to the forefront. What happened?
friend of mine named Jessie Garcia Knowles, who was the exec director at TLAC at the time. And she called me up because somebody recommended me to her for doing press releases. She said, what would you charge us, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is my people. I found you, a clump of you. And so it worked out that I asked if they would consider having me on the board because I wasn't going to charge them to do something that is coming from a passion place in my heart. So they invited me to be part of their board. And I saw the disconnect. There was no one in entertainment talking to the people at TLAC. And the TLAC folks are huge into the business world. The leadership there and the business folks that are at Tennessee Latin American Chamber of Commerce are incredible, sharp. I felt there needed to be a connection. In my mind, I thought, okay, how do I do this? Yes, we'll do press releases. Yes, we'll talk about your Cinco de Mayo golf tournament. And I asked Jessie if it would be okay if I maybe started like a little mini type of leadership music where we got a group of songwriters and just went through maybe a year-long program or 8 weeks or however many weeks they could afford to spend or give me in their schedule, these songwriters. And she found 5 ladies that would be interested in songwriting. Rachel Rodriguez, who if you haven't heard about her, she's incredible. She's got new music coming out through an organization or a label called La Cara, run by Rick Rodriguez. Another great person trying to do what I'm doing and what Angie K is doing and what Karina Daza is doing. And it was Rachel Rodriguez, Rosa Rodriguez, Marta Albarracin, Brenda Coulter, and Marcela Pinilla Eicher. So the first person I called up was my friend Leah Turner, who was a Mexican-American artist signed to Sony a while back. And she's one of the very first Mexican-American artists signed to a major label here in Nashville. She gave me an hour of time with the ladies on a Zoom. We had just started with COVID. And then I called up a friend and someone I respect so much, Pat Alger, who's a Nashville cat. He wrote Thunder Rolls. He's a hero of mine, not just for who he is, but for what I'm about to tell you next. I asked him, would you mind sharing your wisdom on a Zoom with these 5 amazing women who are dedicated to learning and growing their songwriting? He said, yeah, sure. After that, he said, I was thinking, I do classes at Belmont. What if we extended this into sort of like a semester? Well, that went on for 4.5 years. So Rachel says to me one day, hey, I'm doing a writer's round with the girls from the group. My publicity brain's like, is this the first Latina writer's round in Nashville? Turns out it was. She put it together. It was at the Bowery Vault, East Nashville, November 17th, 2021. Then I asked Pat's permission to go ahead and ask the Country Music Hall of Fame, since he's a Nashville cat and they do those Saturday programs. And they said yes. So Pat and the girls did a songwriter round at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and that was March of 2024. It was beautiful. But to see these women representing Puerto Rico, Mexico, Honduras, Colombia, and Guatemala, it blew my mind. So we've been, I say we because they're like family. These ladies are so incredible. It just has to grow. So consistency is the key to change. So I started knocking on doors and just asking for opportunities. Jed Hilly said yes. He gave me a panel at Americana. And we started doing these little showcases. BMI is supported, CSAC has supported, ASCAP is supporting. It just kept happening. And the most recent showcase we had was this man I respect also, Todd Cassidy, who started 11 years ago a show called Song Suffragettes. And they hosted every Monday night at the Listening Room. And me and a young songwriter here who's a boss named Karina Daza, she started an organization called Musicana. We approached Todd and said, hey, would you consider a lineup of just Hispanic women, Latinas? And he said, of course. So he gave us May 19th. The place was packed. And it was Kat Luna, who is now signed to Sony. It was Angie K. It was Karina it was Alicia Dominguez, and it was Mariah. Everyone in the room was mesmerized because you could hear the country reflections and the poetic expression. Each one of these women are great songwriters, and each one of them is coming from a different cultural space. But to see it all come together, there were tears, there was laughter. I think when you get a cultural connection, it makes you reminiscent of the beautiful things you grew up with. Like maybe the smell of pie when you walked into your grandmother's house, or that one favorite dish, any of those things that make you feel joy inside from another time. Each one of those ladies had a song that spoke to a lot of folks in the room and brought them to that place, which is so beautiful. That's what a story should do. That's what music should do.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Mary Mancini. So history was made at the CMAs last year with the first ever Spanish language interview on the red carpet. Let's take a listen.
Nashville se vistió de gala con la celebración de los premios a la música country que este 2024 llevó sabor latino.
Para estar aquí representando a la gente y la cultura mexicana es algo que es un honor.
Moría, luciendo un sombrero charro hecho a mano en Jalisco, dice que el amor a este género musical viene de la fusión entre su México y Nashville.
Crecí escuchando tanto mariachi como música country en cada fiesta familiar. Y hasta mañana mi canción es mi forma de honrar esos dos mundos que viven dentro de mí.
Para Frank, el camino no ha sido sencillo.
Estamos tratando
What did that mean to you personally and to the community you represent?
When I left home to move to Nashville in 1995, my mom looked at me in the face and tears were in her eyes too. It's hard not to see her. I still have my mom, but it's hard not to see her like she's right here in front of me. She said, "No te olvides tu cultura." And that means don't forget your culture. She wasn't telling me, don't forget home, don't forget me, don't forget blah, 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 anything. She's saying, don't forget where you come from, like where your roots are. Don't lose yourself in the world. And I felt personally charged to carry that through. So from my very first job in Nashville, I wanted to be excellent in my work ethic because that's what she would have wanted. I wanted to be kind because that's who she is. I wanted to help lift others up because that's what she would do. That's what she taught me. That's what my grandfather taught me. So to see Mariah speak Spanish to the Telemundo audience, speaking of her history and her heritage on the red carpet for the first time in that language, in her language, it meant everything to me personally because it's a step in the right direction. It is a step to bringing the world together, making the world a smaller place. People seem afraid of the things they don't know about. So I always say, well, get to know it. If you're scared of a person or a thing, or am I going to offend them? It's always better to say, hey, this is where I'm coming from. Can you help me learn about your culture? I think it's beautiful. How can I learn more about you, and how can I serve you? How can I help you? What can I do for you?
Is that why you started the Hispanic Entertainment Alliance, or part of the reason at least?
Part of the reason, yes, because when I moved here, like I said, I didn't have a community. And I chose the word alliance instead of association or anything like that, because to me, it's allies. It's rooted in an energy. It's an active word. It's let's build together. Let's move forward together. And I want everybody to feel, whether you're Hispanic, Latino, anything, wherever you come from, I want you to feel like you're welcome here too. So I wanted to do this so that anybody who was coming to Nashville or was wanting to connect in Nashville knew that they had a safe place to feel seen, to feel heard, to get support. And the three things I always say is connect, create, celebrate. And if it just comes down to that, and you meet somebody that you would not have met, awesome. you're that much further ahead. No one should have to bonk their heads on walls as much as I did at this point in time. So any kind of wisdom or connection I can create and offer to someone else, I want to do that. My grandma, my mom's mom, used to always say, if you light someone else's candle, it doesn't take the light away from your candle. It just makes the world brighter.
Jackie Marushka is the owner of Marushka Media and the founder of the Hispanic Entertainment Alliance, and so much more. When we come back, we'll be joined by country artist and co-founder of the Country Latin Association, Andrea Vasquez, and singer-songwriter and historian, Veronique Medrano. Stay with us.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from Burr and Foreman Law Firm, serving clients with transactional, litigation, and regulatory needs. Discovering how each client defines a win and working with them every step of the way to achieve it. Burr.com.
I'm Mary Mancini, and this is Nashville. Today, we're talking about the impact of the wide variety of Hispanic and Latino country artists making music and the advocates who support them and one another. Here with us are two country music artists who are also leading projects dedicated to creating opportunities for Latino country artists. Andrea Vasquez is the co-founder of the Country Latin Association and the host of the podcast Latina in Nashville. And Veronique Medrano is a preservationist and an archivist who is leading the campaign to induct Freddy Fender into the Country Music Hall of Fame. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
When we talk about Latino country music, we're not just talking about country songs sung in Spanish. The music involves regional folk styles and local country or local cultural influences. Can you tell us a little bit about the popularity of Latino country artists around the world right now?
Yeah, so I don't think so. Sorry, I'm trying to find my words. Latin music, especially Mexican music, they're the original cowboys. They're the ones, when you listen to country music and traditional Mexican music, it is so similar. And, I just feel like that influence has always been there. And it's now, of course, getting popularity. I believe last year, the highest selling genres of music were both Latin music and country music. So there is no denying that the world is more than ready for the blend of these two genres.
Veronique?
I think Mexican sonics have always been a part of country music, whether we kind of go back in time to regional Mexican star Juan Sebastian, who started off with regional Spanish country when he first started out, and then eventually had to shift into regional Mexican music. So then we also have obviously Freddy Fender doing, bilingual country music and obviously crossing over. And then you have, like, the list goes on, Linda Ronstadt and so many others that have continued the legacy of Mexican sonics done by Mexicans in country music. And so the fact that in the last 5 years since the pandemic, we've seen Mexican regional come back in popularity. Maybe not to the same fervor as maybe what a lot of people would say the 90s Latin pop of, that era, with the Ricky Martins and the Shakiras, but we're starting to see something. We're starting to see that, a bilingual culture that was and still is very much pushed forward because of people like Selena, like Karol G, like, Bad Bunny, all of these from older to modern artists are embracing their bilingual culture. And we're seeing more of that in the last 5 years. We're going to see a lot more Latin artists, take it to the main stage, take it across the finish line. I mean, we're now looking at a Mexican regional star, Karin Leon, coming in at this boom at the right time, for, a more big resurgence of bilingual cultural perseverance.
Yeah, and you mentioned Karin Leon, and his popularity is undeniable, as are many of the other artists that you mentioned. What has the reception been like in Nashville, within the Nashville music industry?
Well, for one, I don't know if you've seen clips of when Karin did his Opry debut. He, the entire Hispanic community of Nashville really, really showed up. There were some awesome videos of people waving their flags so proudly. And he actually had a few standing ovations and an encore, which you don't see every single day at the Opry. So to say that, he has been very well received, and he's been doing some amazing collaborations with, not exactly just country, but like Leon Bridges did a collaboration with him, which was incredible. He's doing something with Cody Johnson right now. So I think that, it takes the Karins to kind of open that path and make it a little bit more, approachable.
Yeah. So next week is CMA Fest, hosted by the Country Music Association. And this is 4 days of country music performances on multiple stages spread out across. It's big. This year, during the fest, the Country Latin Association, which, Andrea, is the organization you and Angie Kay started in 2023, will present Country Con Corazon, which is a, quote, special CMA Fest celebration at Plaza Mariachi. And then the next day, the association is also presenting Latino Trailblazers in country. Tell us a little about that. And is this the first time the association has been part of Country Music Fest?
Yeah. So, and of course, I cannot take full credit for any of this. This is just as much me, if not more, Angie Kay. I could go on about just how much of a powerful person she is with everything. But Angie and I, with the Country Latin Association, of course, we sat down. It was back in December of 2024. It's now May. So in 6 short months, we just had a lot of goals, and you're just, these are just kind of bucket list items that we're just talking about, that we're like, oh, we want to do this. We want to do this. And obviously we thought everything was possible, but it's going at a much faster rate than possible, that we're like, what is happening? But that being said, we started a conversation with CMA about how we wanted to get involved. They did a Latin Roots panel last year as well. But yeah, this is the first time that we're doing that. And, also the guys at Origins Music Group, Corey Jones and Stephen Miller, they actually approached us a couple months back, and they're like, hey, girl, we want to get involved with the Latino community, with everything going on in the world. We have to do something. We cannot expect the Latin community to just come to Broadway and come take part in CMA Fest. We need to bring it to them. And I was like, absolutely. How do we do this? And, this is just as much their show as it is ours too. So it's a really great collaboration. Origins Music does all of they can too to help Black and Brown voices in country music. And so this was just such a really cool partnership. So the Plaza Mariachi stage is one that we're just so excited about. It's going to be a nice evening of just culture and community and music. And, we like to party. Us Latin people really like to party. So that's exactly what it's going to be. I'm just very excited about everybody that's going to be playing. We've got Adrian Garcon, who's coming out from California. He's another San Diego, LA, native, who's flying out for this. Myself, Mariah, Frank Ray, Angie Kay, and Generation M. I actually saw them playing at Dee's Country Lounge, and they were playing all these old school Tejano Mexican covers. And I was like, wait, we can't close Plaza Mariachi out with a DJ set. You guys have to close it out. And they were so ecstatic. And I was like, yeah, you guys are playing, whether you like it or not. So that's going to be a really fun time. But back to the panel with CMA Fest. That was just kind of crazy, because back in December when Angie and I had that conversation and we're talking about this Latina Nashville podcast, she was like, who do you want to interview? Who is a bucket list? And I was like, Karin Leon, duh. Like, that was it. And when we figured out that, obviously they're like, we're going to see if we can get him to come. Okay, great. And we're like, this might be possible, because I bet you, since he has a bunch of collabs going on, I bet you he'll be in town. And when they said that he got him on the panel, I was like, oh my goodness, this is cool. This is happening. And the panel,
and you're hosting that, correct?
Yes, I'll be out presenting everybody, introducing everybody, talking a little bit about our association and myself and all the things. And then Tomas Mir from Rolling Stone will be the official host, which he can host an interview far better than I can.
I'm sure you're going to make a great team.
It'll be great. No, we're just so excited.
Yeah. Veronique, Freddy Fender was a Texas-born Tejano musician who bridged not only genres like rock and roll and country, but he also bridged cultures. His mainstream breakthrough came in 1975 with the crossover hit Before the Next Teardrop Falls. One of your main advocacy goals has been to get Fender inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. So what is it about him that warrants an induction, and how is that campaign going?
Campaign's going great. A lot of people do not understand that the CMA organization is the main organization that chooses who gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. The museum is a completely different entity. So when people say, oh, is Freddy Fender in the Hall of Fame? It kind of gets misconstrued because people think like, oh, if his exhibit item, one of his archive pieces, is in a museum, that means he's obviously inducted. No, there's a beautiful round rotunda that actually shows all of the people who have been inducted, and that is all done by a anonymous committee from the country music associations, and they do it every year. And so the fact that we even have any kind of information at all is a win in comparison to when we started. When we started, we had no clue, and it's not super well known or open as many would say when it comes to like understanding how that works. But really, what's funny is a lot of people attribute, his 1974, 1975 hit Before the Next Teardrop Falls as his, big break. But really, it was in the 1960s. And it was right before he went to jail. It was for a blues version of Wasted Days and Wasted Nights. And it's these bits of information, this bit of research and history that really make it so vital, especially when we're trying to understand our place in country music. And we're trying to say, where do we fit in this conversation? And we have to kind of search it out. There's a lot of music that gets made in Nashville, in Music City. But, that doesn't mean everything is connected to country and Americana. And so we have to kind of parcel out, artists that are, just doing music in the town because it's music in town, and actually going into a more regional and kind of roots oriented space. And so the fact that, somebody like Freddie, who was already practicing in the roots culture and in the roots practice of the music, had to take almost 10 years before he finally became big, was considered an underdog because of his situation. He was recording music in jail. And the record, Freddy Fender, live from inside Louisiana State Prison, which was a record that didn't get compiled till after he got big, because they were too nervous to put out a record for a country artist that was of color from jail because they got arrested. Yeah. So it's all that nuance that when you look at it, before the Louis the Singers, before the Jelly Rolls, before, all of these different people, there was Freddie recording Americana roots music in jail. So while still in jail, he did not have the luxury like Johnny Cash to, go hi bye. He actually had to stay. So, there's a bit of, hard knock about it. And I think that kind of story of someone's life should be honored and celebrated because, he really did struggle, but look at him. He came out on top. He's considered on every single list, from Billboard to The Boot to Wide Open Country, whatever, publication you want to talk about. He is on the top 100, the top 50, the top 20 list for music, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Well, so both of you are musicians, music artists as well, and we are unfortunately running out of time to play clips, but your latest release, Andrea, is Waste of Gas. And Veronique, you recorded a version of the 1961 classic Crying, which was written and recorded by Roy Orbison. Beautiful, beautiful version. Earlier in the show, Louis the Singer suggested that Latino artists who came before, like Freddy Fender, had to kind of tone down their roots to fit into the mold. Has anyone in the industry ever asked you to lean away from your Latino heritage instead of doing what you're doing, which is leaning into it? Andrea?
Yeah.
Not directly, but, I've been in Nashville now about 8 years, and I could tell you that it was definitely more implied to tone up the blonde highlights and just kind of not really mention it as much. And I think now I'm embracing all the things that I clearly am. I mean, my last name is Vasquez. I'm not hiding, you know.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in this hour. I want to ask you, thank you both for being here. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Julie Hight and me. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our board operator is Lim Lombardi. All episodes of this Nashville, like our interviews with Bella Fleck and Giancarlo Guerrero, are available at thisisnashville.org and on all podcast platforms. This is Nashville. I'm Mary Mancini. Thanks so much for listening.